Hello everyone, thank you very much for coming out tonight. Tonight we're going to be doing a final review or a most recent review of the draft management plan for the Y Woods. My name is Jonas Spivak. I'm the communications coordinator for the town of Bennington. And I'm very happy to have with me today Tessa McGann, and we'll have her come up in just a minute to start the presentation. But before we do, I did want to point out that there are some maps located over on the table that you're welcome to grab. We had a number of copies. It looks like we maybe had just barely enough copies of the plan itself. It's also available in electronic format on the town's website, and I will show you that after the presentation is over. And finally, I did include some index cards over there and some pens. So if you decide you have a question but you're not comfortable asking it while on camera, just write down your question and give it to me, and I'd be happy to read it at the end as part of the public comment. So with that, let me introduce Tessa McGann. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. Can I take this out and come around, or should I stay back here?
It might be better if you're closer.
Yeah, you have to be close to the mic.
Yeah, but can I take it out?
You can, sure.
I can lean. Is this good?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll try to do this. Oh, my clicker. Hello. I am Tessa McGann. I am the county forester for southwestern Vermont. So I am a state employee, and I am a resource essentially for all things forestry related for folks in southwestern Vermont. Primarily, I deal with private forest landowners, but I also have the privilege of working with towns to help manage the incredible resource that is town-owned forest land. And that's why I'm here this evening to present the latest and hopefully the final draft of the Y Woods management plan. Tonight I'll start by giving a brief overview of the forest and the plan as it is, and then we'll dive into all the changes that have happened since the first draft came out this summer.
Can everyone hear okay?
As I'm sure many of you know, Y Woods is a 30-acre parcel at the south end of town. It has its name because it used to be a YMCA camp back in the day, before it was acquired by the town in the 1970s. It was acquired through a combination of state funding, federal funding, and local donations through the Rotary Club, which I think demonstrate that the public has long had a vested interest in this forest. However, it has not had a management plan. It has been used by the neighborhood as a recreational space. People go on lots of walks, enjoy nature. It also has a long-standing relationship with Southwest Tech, where students use it to practice safe chainsawing, learn about tree identification, and other natural resource issues. I want to ground us in what makes this forest so special. It is a relatively large parcel of intact interior forest in what's a relatively very densely populated, highly developed, and fragmented landscape, which lends specialness in multiple ways. One, its proximity to the center of town means that with a short car ride or no car ride at all, residents can, as I mentioned before, experience the woods, walk in the woods, see wildlife, which is an incredible boon to any community. Its proximity to the school means that with just a short bus ride, students can spend more time outdoors, learning hands-on, developing professional skills. And also, its position in this fragmented, developed landscape means that it is a refuge for wildlife. On the broader scale, it is also part of the swamp that connects the Taconic Mountains and points south to the Green Mountains and points north, allowing wildlife to migrate as needed due to different pressures and opportunities, which is always critical, but especially in the rapidly changing world that we're facing. And that principle also applies to plants and tree species, genetics, being able to shift as needed. And so This forest, its position here as a refuge and a connecting piece, is also really important to forest resilience on the landscape level and beyond. And it makes sense that such a special piece of land, publicly owned land, I think should have a community vision for its future and a plan for how to get there. Which is why we have come to this management plan. The idea for this plan originated with R.J. Jolly, who is the Director of Public Works. He was working with my predecessor, Corey Cregan, at the time, and asked Corey to help write a plan for this parcel. Corey agreed, and it started with a public meeting where they reached out to the community to ask you what your goals were for this land, your vision, your values. And using that, Corey went forth and did an inventory in the forest to learn about the current conditions, the current needs of the forest. Southwest Tech students did help out with this. And guided by that information and the input from the town, he wrote the first draft of the management plan. He then left his position to pursue private work in New York, and I stepped in. So I presented that draft to you, or to the town of Bennington last July, and got a lot of great feedback from the community. And over the last 8 months, I've worked with Jonah and Eric Bishop, who is the director of the forestry program at Southwest Tech, to incorporate those comments, that feedback, into the plan. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I wanted to start by sharing some of the what I see as the main tenets, the core elements of the plan that have carried through from that first draft to this current draft. First, I see this plan as prescribing treatments for forest health. Some of that involves some light cutting, which will be performed by Southwest Tech students as part of their continuing education, their continuing educational use of this forest. And then the plan also recommends improvements to the trails, both to prevent erosion, protect soil health, and also to improve recreation. I'm going to dive a little bit more into these aspects before we get into the comments and the changes in this famous draft. Some of you already know, but Corey broke the forest into 5 stands, 5 different treatment areas, essentially, which are differentiated by tree species primarily. Although the forest is mostly sugar maple, there is some variation in the secondary species, and then there's more white pine along the western boundary of the stand, of the forest. In stands 1 and 2, the plan calls for cutting beech out of discrete areas, about 1/4 acre to 1/2 acre in size, and then fencing those areas off to protect them from deer. The goal here is to prevent the beech from casting shade on young, diverse trees of different species, and also to protect those young trees from being eaten by deer. And that's all to work towards having a more diverse forest in the future. The plan also calls for designating 3 to 6 large trees as legacy trees. This means that they will be marked and mapped so people know that these trees will never be cut and will be allowed to live out the rest of their natural life. The plan also recommends in stand 2, felling some large trees and leaving them on the ground to create coarse woody material. Research has shown that really large coarse woody material is beneficial to wildlife, it's beneficial to soil health, prevents erosion, has multiple other benefits to the forest, and is a feature of older forests and something we're really lacking across the landscape. So here we're just trying to give a little bit of that back into the system. In stands 3 and 4, instead of having this concentrated or removing trees in little groups, it's more dispersed. There's a light thinning prescribed, focusing on removing Norway maple, which is an invasive tree, but also in certain situations, removing lower, bigger trees where they are shading out younger trees, trees of underrepresented species, again, where neighbors speak, or trees with really excellent quality. And again, there's the designation of legacy trees and the creation of forest woody material. And then finally, across the whole forest, the plan recommends removing invasive plants, improving trails to prevent erosion, and then mapping, marking, and maintaining trails for recreation. So in brief, that's what the original plan laid out, and that's what carries through to this plan today. But here we have compiled a list of all the comments that we heard from you at the last public meeting and afterwards through comments online. I'm not going to read through them all at once, but we're going to go through these bit by bit. And in the following slides, I'll show you in quotes from the plan and screenshots how we've incorporated all these comments into the current draft. So to start, the plan that Corey wrote had all of the management objectives for the plan right at the beginning in a paragraph form. And it was requested that these objectives be listed out in order of priority to help make management decisions in the future should conflict arise. So we've done that. I'm going to read from the screen. So the first management objective is enhancement of forest health, diversity, and resiliency. Second is protection of ecological function, including the provision of wildlife habitat for diverse native forest species. Third is the creation of educational opportunities. Next is the creation of recreational opportunities. Then demonstration of responsible, intentional, and carefully planned and researched forest management. And then finally, the sustainable production of forest products. Importantly, I also included the prioritization of goals may aid future decision-making processes, but no single goal should ever be elevated without consideration of all others. So that's to emphasize that these are all goals of the management plan. And so one goal shouldn't be promoted at the exclusion or detriment to the other goals just because it's higher in the list. But it can aid, this prioritization can aid decision-making if folks reach and pass. So we crossed that one out. The next couple of points cover when the work will happen, who will carry it out, the question of assessing objectives. So I created this timeline, or a table, that has, it breaks all the treatments in the plan out separately. It gives a time frame for when we anticipate they will happen. And then it also mentions who we think will carry these out. I want to point out here, we heard folks wanted to know how the objectives would be assessed. They wanted some kind of timeline for that assessment. So here we call out that there will be annual monitoring that happens performed by the county forester and the Southwest Tech students to assess forest health objectives yearly. And then at the end of the 10-year period, when the plan is revisited and rewritten, there will be a more in-depth assessment of all of the objectives. I also wanted to point out here, there was a question at the last public meeting where it was brought to our attention that there are neighbors to the Y-Woods, locals who have been involved independently with managing invasive plants or doing some trail management on their own. And as we talked about these being prescribed in the management plan, they wanted to be able to be involved, to keep doing that work, to maybe coordinate with the town and the school. So I did include them here, local volunteers as part of the folks who'd be doing the invasive plant management and the trail maintenance. And then later in the plan, I also specifically called out this vision of having collaborative shared stewardship of this forest. We talk about the creation of a Friends of Y Woods group, which would be a group of local volunteers who coordinate with the town and the school to carry out certain stewardship activities. So here we recommend open communication and collaboration between these different parties. All right. The next two things deal with actions on the ground. So first, there was a very reasonable suggestion that there be some signs to explain the deer exposures that we propose for stands 1 and 2, those areas that will be fenced out for deer. That makes sense. That's very doable, so we included that in the plan to have some interpretive signs put up near those management areas. And then we also got feedback from some neighbors that there are some trees along the boundaries of Y Woods that abutted their properties that they were worried were leaning or declining, that posed some sort of threat to their property or their safety. They wondered if the town could address these hazard trees and if that could be part of the management plan. We also thought that that was very reasonable. So we included in all of the stands that abut those neighboring properties that the trees along the boundary will be assessed according to industry standards and then removed as necessary, as deemed necessary. And in fact, we already have scheduled a date when the state arborist, Adam McCullough, will come down and assess the trees along that boundary. The students of Southwest Tech will join him and learn about tree assessment, risk assessment. And then Adam and Eric Bishop, the director of the forestry program, will decide which trees the students at Southwest Tech could remove safely on their own, and which ones the town should contract with a private arborist to remove. And then the town will proceed accordingly. Adam is very awesome. He works a lot with municipalities to talk about and assess risk of trees on public lands. I just included a screenshot of an article that he just wrote about assessing risk, so I'm really excited that he's able to come down and help with this. Next up, we just have a few points about park rules, where they're posted, access to the park. So folks had questions about what the rules would be at this park. The plan has adopted the rules that are generally used for other parks in the town. So no drinking, no littering, no motorized vehicles, bikes are okay. This section also, at the recommendation of some town members, that there be a kiosk installed at the entrance of the park that would post these rules, also a trail map and a tick advisory. And then I'll also just highlight that in this section, we named that primary access as the access on Middle Pownell Road. I'll say more about that in a second. I also just wanted to note that here we identify that there is some funding available for this kind of work through the state's recreational trails program, funding things like making trail maps, improving trails, putting up kiosks, and the town does hope to apply for that in this coming grant cycle, which is also in the plan. Just a note about access. Again, this plan identifies the entrance on Middle Pownell Road as the primary entrance to the forest for recreational and educational uses. There were some questions about this access to Crescent Boulevard. I'll say that the plan does not bring attention to that access point at all. I think moving forward, someone posed a question just last week about whether or not there should be any signage at the Crescent Boulevard access, and I think we'll leave it to the Friends of Y Woods, or work with the Friends of Y Woods and that community of neighbors to come to a decision about that. But just emphasizing that it's not highlighted in the plan, and the access is described as Middle Pownell Road. We're almost to the end of this list. One of the final ones, the plan in several places discusses managing for wildlife habitat. Somebody asked, which wildlife are we talking about here? If it was golden winged warbler, that would mean clearing the whole forest. It's not. So we decided to clarify what we meant there. So in the plan, we've listed an example of some of the kinds of animals we're managing for. It's not a comprehensive list. And then later we say that the activities in the plan are to promote a diverse suite of native animals that inhabit maturing northern hardwood forests of southern Vermont. And looking forward, future management will not favor one wildlife species without consideration of the others typical to wildwoods or similar forests. So again, just putting some guidelines around the fact that we're never going to elevate just one wildlife species at the extreme detriment of all the others we would expect to see in a maturing northern hardwood forest, which is what we're managing for. And I included a picture of a bobcat here because the last time I went to Wildwoods in December with Jonah and Eric, we actually saw a bobcat when they crossed the road and off into the forest. It's exciting. The final thing that we heard from you is a resounding cry that there is garlic mustard in this forest. When Corey did the inventory, it was in the winter, and it's hard to see that. So I'm really glad that there are neighbors who pay attention and know that it is there. And so of course we put it in the plan. And here I also wanted to call attention again to the fact that we mentioned the Friends of Wye Woods group and that we hope that volunteers will participate in managing the garlic mustard and other invasive plants. And then finally, this is something that I added. It didn't come from public comment, but at the end of the plan, there's a section that discusses pests and pathogens that will impact this forest into the future. And then Corey wrote it, beech leaf disease was not considered to be a major threat to our forests in Vermont yet, but now it is. Beech leaf disease is not actually a disease, it's a nematode, or a tiny, tiny worm, that afflicts beech trees. It will kill them pretty rapidly in 3 to 5 years, and the range of this nematode is expanding very rapidly. It is in Vermont now. We don't know exactly how that's going to impact our forests or impact wildwoods, but I thought it was important to call attention to it and to state that following the research and recommendations about beech leaf disease, it will be part of the management of this forest going forward. And we made it through the list. Those are all the edits and changes that have happened since I was last up here. I wanted to end just by grounding again into these, what I see as the main takeaways of the plan. Again, there are treatments for forest health that are prescribed. Some of these will be carried out by the students as part of their ongoing educational use of this forest. There are improvements that will be made to the trails, both for soil health and recreation. And then there's a plan to address the hazardous trees along the boundary. And finally, I think it is important that this plan calls for the creation of the Friends of Wye Woods and more collaborative management and stewardship going forward. I think all of these are very cool and important plans for the forest, and I'm really excited for you all. I think this is about to happen. So with that, we'll open it up for questions and comments. Thank you.
If you'd like to speak, please come up to the microphone here, if you don't
Can I
mind.
just talk loud?
Just for the recording purposes, if you wouldn't mind, that would be ideal. Or if you want to write it down, I can read it for you.
Thank you. That's very interesting. Is there any place or any map that shows where the stands are?
Yeah, it should be in the plan. I guess maybe it's not.
There's a map in the
But
plan.
it's
I just
sort
looked.
sorry. This one, it's hard to see it here, but stand 1, 2, 3, 4. It shows a
Do we have that
better.
in print?
It should be in print. It should be. I think it's part of the plan. If not, I'll get it to Jonah ASAP. Yeah, this is what we think of as the map for the property that goes with the plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the plan. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we'll make sure that it gets online if it's not there already. Sorry about that.
Please, come up to the mic.
So, thank you. This is a much improved draft, so looks wonderful. I have two things that I'd like to ask. One is, I wonder if you would consider including the Friends of the Wye Woods in the annual assessments on page 4. You have you and the students, but I think the Friends of the Wye Woods would like
That's a
to
great
be part of
idea.
it.
Yeah, we would love to invite them along for that, so
Yeah.
I can do that.
The second one is, I'm wondering if the Parkwood Cemetery has been approached. Have they shown any interest in being a part of this planning? They have such a big boundary on the Wildwoods.
They do. I have not approached them. I don't know if my predecessor did when he started to write this plan, or if the town has. But that's a good question, and it would make sense to talk about collaborative management with them.
Yeah, they've been wonderful neighbors in terms of, we use their land liberally, and so they want to be part of this planning.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Please, Nancy.
Would you have an estimated cost of the town in the tree removal, the fencing, and the signage?
I do not. The tree removal, I think we have no idea at this point of which trees or how many trees or the condition of the trees that have to be removed. The siding, we're hoping to use the grant money to help make, and then also Southwest Tech, their construction program might be able to help us create and print those signs. The fencing, I don't have a cost estimate. That's a good question.
And would this be something, Jonah, that the board would find out ahead of time before it went forward?
Yeah, like with any expenditure, it has to go through the budget process and would be approved by the select board.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I will say the fencing, we've done a model experimenting on town floors with very rugged cedar posts and plastic fencing that gets wrapped around, so I think if the cost would be minimal at the end.
Do you have any plans about the name of the forest? Wye Woods refers to its history, but you could also think WHY if you just hear it. I actually would welcome, suggest there be named in honor of Tom and Nancy Jean Steffen, who lived right beside it. Tom created maps of the Wye Woods as they were, and put up some of those maps and distributed them. And both Tom and Nancy Jean Steffen did a lot for this town.
That's a great and welcome comment. We have not talked about renaming Wye Woods, but I hear that, yeah.
I was wondering if any thought has been given to mapping or signage that might connect the Wye Woods with the Headwaters Preserve to give some continuity, let people know it's there, I don't know, crosswalk kind of thing.
We haven't gotten into the specifics of how, when you create a trail map to post on the kiosk and post online, we haven't gotten into what that would look like, but I'm glad that you made that comment, because I think it would be easy to have some sort of indication that these trails continue on to nearby camping spaces. So,
And I was also wondering, under invasive species, if any specific observation was done for jumping worms. I have seen them at the headwaters, at the other side, so not directly adjacent, but I was just wondering if the survey was done in the winter, there'd probably be less indicators, but yeah, just something to consider.
I don't think it's something that's been picked up as this plan is being written, but it's something to keep a watch out for. Thank you.
Other thoughts or comments?
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more. I'm wondering if after you do your thinning or patch cuts and you put up the animal fencing, if you could keep in mind that the paths people can go through, or,
Gates to get into those areas.
yeah?
They'll be pretty small areas away from the trail, so I don't think we'll have gates in them. And the fences won't be permanent either, so, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Tessa.
Thank you.
Really, really great work Tessa has
Yeah.
done. So thank you for really standing up. I was curious, how many people here got an email from me because you reached out about the Friends of the Wildwoods group? Can you raise your hands if you're amongst that? Okay. Take a look around. Those are other people that are interested. There are 13 people that have currently asked to be included in a possible future Wildwoods group. They have all been CC'd on that email I sent you. So we're hoping that you will take the initiative to get together and actually create that group. We think it's a wonderful idea. So we support it. It is literally in the plan. And I would suggest that a couple of these items, and we've already mentioned one, Tim's suggestion about including the Friends in the annual assessment. I think there's no problem. We're just going to go ahead and include that. The map of the stands, if it's not in there, it will be in there. A reach out to the Parkwood Cemetery, I will do that, but I don't know that that needs to be in the plan. Does that make sense? It's an outreach, and actually what I'd probably do is connect them with the Friends group. The name of the forest. I think that's something I would like to hear emerge from that Wildwoods Friends group. So maybe if you agree, maybe that's something that would be appropriate for perhaps a first meeting when that Wildwoods group, the Friends group meets. That's something that could be taken up by them and then suggested back to the town. I think it would be a lovely way to proceed. But also not necessarily in the plan, or do we need to note that in the plan? What do you think?
I think that would be a bigger conversation with the town, I would think. I wouldn't want to make that call myself.
It seems more appropriate to give that to the Friends group. Do we agree? Okay, we see some. And then finally, the connecting with other trails. I think we should include that in the plan. That's a great suggestion. And also jumping worms, although I'm not sure what we can, is there a mitigation things we can do for jumping worms?
I don't think I would try to specify that in the plan. People are experimenting and trying to find out, but just noting that they could be present. Yeah.
All right. Any other final questions or thoughts, please?
Since I live very close to Wildwoods, I'm interested in being part of the Friends group, but I haven't received any outreach or anything.
Yep,
What should I do?
Just contact me. I'll give you
Okay.
my card right afterwards. You can email me, and if you're watching from home, I will bring up on the screen where on the town website you can find all this information.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You were going to give us the link.
Yes, I'm doing that right now.
I do my part.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So on the town's website, under How Do I, there's provided
What?
about the
Sorry?
Wildwoods. Also, under Community, Wildwoods, Public Input, they both go to the same page, and when you click on it, this is where all the information resides, including the plan that we went over tonight, as well as the slide deck that Tessa presented. This is also where we will have the video that was recorded tonight for people that weren't able to be here tonight. And then at the bottom, there's the Wildwoods public comment form. So if you have additional comments, you think of something after you leave here and you'd like to share that with us, please do just fill that out. Did I cover everything?
I have a question, Jonah, which is, could you make kind of a portal where folks can put in their email address if they want to be added to the Friends of Wildwood?
Yes, so if you fill out that public comment form, you can ask to be added to the Wildwoods, that's one way. Also, if you email the town of Bennington, info@Bennington, Vermont, right there at the bottom, that comes direct to me. And I will simply add you right there if you would like to be.
And I will say, moving forward, when I help undertake any work at Wildwoods, I will plan to reach out to the Friends group, just to start that practice of open communication and coordination between the different groups. Thank you.
Can you bring back the big stands map? I want to mark it on. I can't see it from here.
The first, there's an earlier one where I did call out the names of them that were.
Let's see if it's actually on the plan.
You had a slide earlier that showed it
Right.
with,
It might not be.
with yellow boundaries.
It's not in the plan.
Okay, it's not on the plan.
It was in the presentation.
Now, that's something that could be added to the website. It's
Yeah,
not
we
there
will-
already.
We will add it to the website. We'll make sure it gets up there.
So the stand map that was in the PowerPoint,
Yeah.
So slide 4.
There.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
I did not turn that off. That was the wiring that did that. Anything else? Well, thank you. This has been a great process, and I think we're pretty much done. Does that sound right to you? We're ready to present this plan. You may be wondering, what is the next step for the plan? We will do those small edits that we established here tonight, and then we will present it to the select board. The select board does not have to act on this. We have a forest management plan for the town as a whole, but we do present it to the select board, and if they do want to make changes or have suggestions, of course, they're able to. It does not require adoption. It's a tool for the town to use, although certainly the select board has that ability to do that if they so choose. We'll probably do that after town meeting, just to give time for Tessa to make any changes. And then we'll have a forest management plan in place. And I guess what I would ask is, if and when the Friends group does get going, let me know. We want to work and partner closely with you here at the town, and I would be your liaison for that. So, on that note, thank you all so much for coming out. We really appreciate it. This was a tremendous accomplishment. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.